Hey guys, today I want to talk about classic or classical programming languages. And these are going to be programming languages. Let me pull up my screen here. You can see I have a dictionary open here, and I just put in classic. And here's some of the definitions: judged over a period of time to be of the highest quality and outstanding of its kind, remarkably and instructively typical. So basically, a classic programming language is something that is it's withstood the test of time as much as modern technology, computer technology can withstand the test of time because it's only been around so long. But it's going to be a language that has withstood the test of time and is of the highest quality and outstanding and remarkably and instructively typical. So the clearest example is going to be the C programming language. It's remarkably typical. It's the de facto high level programming language, even though it's pretty low level these days. But a lot of languages they're called C like or C based type languages, or I guess like C like languages, or I can't remember the exact word, like in the style of C basically. A lot of languages follow that C syntax and layout and just the way that it's used to program computers. So the main point of the video really is to give you a definition of classic, and what that does is it'll help you when you're looking at what programming language you might want to use for any particular project that you're working on, or maybe a programming language that you just want to learn. It acts as kind of a guide, because you could say, like, I want to go with classic programming languages. Those are going to be the classiest, the highest, the highest level, the best, basically, that have withstood the test of time. So, and then now I do want to go into looking at a couple and kind of figuring out what some classical programming languages are. So I want to go to the Tyobi Index. This is like a website. The software quality company is a company that every month they put out this index of programming languages, and basically it's they use a bunch of data and statistics to figure out what the most widely popular and used programming languages are, I guess. Right here it says the Tyobi Programming Community Index is an indicator of the popularity of programming languages. So you could go on Stack Overflow and look at the most popular programming languages on that specific website. The Tyobi Index aims to find the most popular just in general in the whole world. So, and it's pretty useful. Like right here's a good use case for it. The index can be used to check whether your programming skills are still up to date, or to make a strategic decision about what programming languages should be adopted when starting to build a new software system. So it's pretty cool. You can find the definition. There's a link there. Let's see what that is. I'm guessing it tells you how they get the data. It's going to tell me it's restricted. I'm not going to bother for now. So you can click that and see what's there. But yeah, so you can see C is number one, and it's actually come up from last year. It came up from number 2 last March to number 1 this March. C, that is a programming language that has been around since like the 70s. Let's see, C programming language. Let's find that on Wikipedia here. That was publication date for the book was 1978 for the first edition. So my definition of a classical programming language would be one that's been around for 20 years or more, and is on the Tyobi Index. So is one of the top 20 most popular programming languages in the world. I think that shows, if it's on here and plus it's been around for 20 years or more, I think that shows that it's withstood the test of time and that it's a classic language. Java, let's see, how long has that been around? I think that's probably close to 20 years. Let's see, Java programming language. When was invented? Work on the language began in 1991, so we can assume it's probably, probably been around since. Here we go. The complete history on geeksforgeeks.org. Good website, by the way. And it just says it was developed in the early 1990s. So if it's been around since the 90s, even if it was 1999, it would be it's withstood the test of time. And it's number 2 on the Tyobi Index, and it just got replaced by C, actually. Now the question is it going to fall any more than that? Who knows? It dropped, the percent change there is pretty hefty. Now you can see down here, number 15, there's a language called Groovy. This uses the Java virtual machine, but it was made by the Apache, the people who made the Apache, or it was made by, who made that? Is it the Linux Foundation? Let's see. Groovy programming language. Yeah, Apache. So Apache Groovy. Apache is, they do, lots of open source software. It's a Java syntax compatible object-oriented language for the Java Pro platform. So it's very interchangeable with Java, but it's more modernized and it has features that improve on a lot of Java's shortcomings. And you can see that's improved. It came up from spot 36 on the index to spot 15 in a year. So that's coming up, and that's probably helps knock Java down a little bit. Because maybe a new developer that's getting into the world where they may think they need to learn Java, they might just learn Groovy instead, and they can basically use Groovy wherever they would use Java. This one's definitely a classic. Python, that's been around since the 90s, which at first it sort of shocked me, I guess. This was a while ago when I was looking into this, but because Python didn't really gain a lot of traction until like the maybe early to maybe even the later like OOs, like 2000s, like 2008, 2009. Up until then, it was really C and C++. C++ was big at that time. I remember when I was in high school. And Python maybe was just starting to get traction then, as far as I know anyway. And it got really popular when it started being used, along with like Ruby as a web framework, I think, just in the past, 5-10 years. Groovy, you can see that's not a classic programming language because it hasn't been around for 20 years, at least in my definition. So Python release date, let's try that. I don't know. History of Python. It was conceived in the late 80s, so that's been around a long time. So and its implementation was started in 89. So that's definitely a classic. It's just weird, it doesn't seem like it would have been around that long, but yeah, it's a good language. It's so easy, so simple. A little bit, not the most performant, but it's fun to code and read Python code. I enjoy it. C++ held its spot at number 4. That's definitely a classic. That's been around since like the 80s or maybe even the 70s. Okay. Or just don't tell me. DuckDuckGo. Okay. So yeah, it's been around. Oops. It's been around a while. Oh, cool. I didn't even know that you can click on them and see the history of it. So its history goes back to 2001. So it's definitely been around for 20 years because it's been on the Tyobi Index for that long. And yeah, you can see it's slowly declining in popularity, but May 2019, it was at number 3. That was its highest position. Let's see what C has done over the years. Oh, wow. So it dropped off a ton. And then there was this movement, looks like around in 2017, 2018, where people wanted to kind of get back to a more minimal style. And maybe there was a more of a newfound need for highly performant code. And that would have come about, I think, probably by a lot of things moving to the cloud. When you're running your code on someone else's server and you're paying per compute cycle, it becomes more important to have efficient code than, say, maybe back in 2006, 2007, when your code was just running on someone's computer. And at that point, computers were becoming powerful enough, personal computers were becoming powerful enough that they didn't need the most highly performing code to run well. So that's interesting. Java, I'm guessing that's just a steady decline. Yeah. Python, let's see if we can tell when that, yeah, see, here's that popularity spike I was talking about. 2000, so like 2017. So I think back in it was around in 2015, I had read a book, and this was like one of the first books that really made me understand programming. And it was Learn Python the Hard Way. It is a great book. It's still around. You can read it online for free. I think there's a website, Learn Python the Hard Way or something like that. And the author just did a phenomenal job at, and it's really not hard. It was probably the easiest programming book and language I had tried up to that point. I guess it's kind of just a clickbaity title, but yeah, it's a good. It seems like right around then, maybe the popularity spiked a bit, and then I think this must have been with the Django web framework and stuff like that, just gaining in popularity. I think. I don't know, just guesses. JavaScript's up there. That, I'm not sure if that's a classic or not. Let's see. That was written for Netscape Navigator, right? Which was late 90s, early 2000s. So it should be. I'm guessing it probably is. First appeared in 1995, December 4th. So that's a classic. JavaScript is a classic programming language. It's a cool language. It's got some weird quirks. TypeScript fixes some of those, which is nice. TypeScript is not on the top 20 either, and I believe it has been in the top 20 in the past. See where it's at. TypeScript. There it is, number 41. So it's not, it's in the top 50. It's not way low, but yeah, JavaScript's still up there. It's so nice for just quick little web development things. Maybe not the best for back-end stuff like Node.js. You might want to use TypeScript if you're doing that route. But if you just want a pop-up, something to pop up on a web page, not like an ad pop-up because those are evil, just like a form or something like that, JavaScript can be super useful. PHP, still in number 8, holding its place, and that's been around for a long time. That's gotten a lot better in the past couple years too, as far as the PHP team really, really improved the performance of the language, and it's become a lot better. I think it was with PHP 7, I want to say. They really made it a better language, I think. But as you can see, it's still just steadily declining ever since. This is the early web, not early web, but this next round after the early web, I guess, the MySpace era, and PHP. I think the first Facebook pages were made with PHP. Yeah, so you can see it was used quite a bit until 2010, and then it started dropping off. This must have been, I wonder if that's when Ruby came about. Let's see if Ruby's popularity got more popular in 2010. No, that kind of started dropping, and well, it sort of steadied out there. It got real popular there. That might be, those are kind of coincide. Go programming language, that I don't believe that is a classic because it has not been around that long. I think it was maybe 2010, 2015. Let's look at the release history. 2012. So, yep. Not a classic yet, but it's up there. It's popular, but it hasn't yet withstood the test of time. And you can see Rust is not on here. Let's see. Yeah, there's Rust there, number 27. It'll be interesting. That one interests me because it's different, and it's hard for people to understand because it's different. It has some complicated things, but it also improves on a lot of things. It makes, memory a lot safer, as far as, you're not going to have memory leaks with Rust. Basically, they're almost non-existent because of the way the compiler forces you to program. Now, the thing about that is that C compilers can do the same thing. You can set up your C compiler to make it just as strict or almost as strict as Rust, and have very very good safe code. So whether Rust will stick around or not, I don't know. Time will tell. Let's see. Classic Visual Basic. I guess that's a classic. It's on the Tyobi Index. It's number 18. It's fallen. Let's see where it's. Yeah, but it's been around a long time. Classic Visual, not even regular Visual Basic, not even like the .NET version of Visual Basic. We're talking classic. It must have just been, I think it was just so widely used when Windows, like 95, Windows 2000, Windows XP, that was the Windows programming language, Visual Basic, before C#. Kind of replaced it there. So I guess it got a lot of traction then, and it stuck around. C#, there's C#, I don't think that's a classic. I don't know. Yeah, it might be. The history of C#. I like when companies like, you saw Google did that or Go did that with the Go language one, and Microsoft's doing it here. When they give like a version history, it's kind of cool. History's fun. So version 1.0 released with Visual Studio.NET 2002. So it's not, I don't think it might be a classic. If it's not a classic right now, it's getting pretty close. And the fact that it's been around that long and it's at number 5, that's pretty solid. And I think that's really a testament to the fact that Windows is it's the de facto operating system. It's the one that, most people, when they buy it, just go to Walmart or go to Staples or wherever and buy a computer, Best Buy. Most of the time they're just going to get something inexpensive and that'll, let them get on Facebook and watch Netflix and do their online banking. And that's usually a Windows device. I wouldn't recommend a Windows device for online banking, but that's just me. And, it's probably not so bad anymore. Windows, they have Windows Defender built in, and it's not, viruses, web browsers are a lot better now than they used to be. I think it's more difficult to get a virus than it used to be. It used to be like, you you click on the wrong ad accidentally or something, and you've got like 10 viruses. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be. But the reason that I think Mac OS has been not so bad as far as viruses go, I don't think it's that it's necessarily a better operating system under the hood. It is Unix, and I love Unix, and I love, Unix. It uses it made some design decisions that were brilliant, like under the hood, like if two programs are trying to get the same memory, it makes them wait in line, and it uses a round robin to decide which one gets the next, or which one gets to use the memory next, whereas Windows uses the first in, first out method. I don't know. That's all. Look into operating system, like read up on operating systems. I don't know, read an operating systems textbook, and you'll learn about that kind of stuff. But anyway, so this is kind of a long video. I guess I went on about this for a while. SQL, that's like, I'm surprised that's not number 2. Like, I don't know, it's just all these programming languages in the top 9, except for probably assembly language doesn't, but all these other ones, that's cool. Assembly language became more popular, and it's up at number 9 now. That's pretty awesome. That's really cool. So anyway, all these other languages, these top 8 in the top 20, and all the rest in the top 22, aside from assembly language, and maybe MATLAB, that's probably not really, but the other ones will use SQL as their backend almost all the time for the database. Like, you make programs and they have data and they have functions basically. And whenever you're storing data, you're most likely going to use SQL. You might use like Mango or MongoDB or some other NoSQL database, but most likely it's going to be SQL. It's so pervasive in business and enterprise. It's insane. If there was one language and to learn, it's SQL. Just learn it. Even if you're just learning it alongside other languages, you just know SQL. Like that's so classic in my opinion. And it's not even like, it's totally different than the other ones because it's a database language. It's not. I guess it's probably Turing complete and everything, but it's not. You're not going to write like full 100,000 line programs in SQL like you would in C or Java or Python or C#. But every one of these programming languages is going to use SQL statements and calls to access data in SQL databases. So it's that one that's like, it's like moss on a tree or something, it's like it formed a symbiotic relationship with all these other languages. So it's just there, and it's going to be around for a long, long, long time, I think. It's just so deeply rooted in the world of programming. R, that went down a little bit. R and MATLAB, those are both kind of mathematical languages, like used for number manipulation and data manipulation, that kind of thing. Perl, that has some deep roots in web servers, I think, back in like the 90s. So it's basically a classic language since it's on here, I guess, but you can see it's just been declining for a long time. So maybe it's not a classic anymore just because of its decline. I don't know. That's one, like Perl and like classic Visual Basic. Those are ones where it kind of blurs the lines of the definition of what a classic programming language is. It's not necessarily one that's been around for 20 years or more and is on the Tyobi Index, because there are some that were just so deeply rooted in one period. They were just so popular for like a 5-year period that they became used in so many business functions that now it's like, it's just so much work to replace them that nobody bothers. So that's one of those. Swift dropped from 13 to 19. What the heck? I don't know about what that's all about, but it's number 20, but it hasn't been around for 20 years. Objective-C has. That's another one that kind of blurs the lines, but Swift's too new to tell. It just hasn't withstood the test of time, right? And Objective-C, that's really only been around because Apple, kind of like C# with Windows, or maybe Visual Basic with Windows. It's not C# is a good language, I think, but Visual Basic has some kind of quirks. Objective-C has some kind of quirks, but it's been around because that's what Apple uses. Objective-C does have the advantage that you can run C code with Objective-C, so it does have that, I guess. But anyway, yeah, that's just, I don't know, classic programming languages. Let me know what you think. Give me some comments. Let's have some discussions about, some cool languages and what are the classics in your eyes. Let me know. Thanks for watching. Peace out.